Good evening, everybody. We'll call this regular council meeting of June 13th to order, please. Council, adoption of the minutes of the 24th, please. Mover, seconder. Boot and Barkle, all in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. That's for both the 24th and the 26th. Resolution to adopt our agenda this evening. Motion to that, please. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Carlson, all in favor? Thank you. Carried. Delegations. Moving right into interior health. So, who's who here?
And good evening. My name is Susan Brown. I'm the Health Services Administrator for the South Okanagan for Community Services.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Regier, and I'm the Health Service Administrator for Residential Services with the South Okanagan.
And our apologies, Maureen Thompson wasn't able to attend. Janice Perino, I think you know her, kind of took her off to another event here in Summerland tonight. So she's in town, but doing something different.
Great. Well, thank you for coming.
So what we've come tonight is to just share with you a brief overview of the direction of interior health. We like to try and come once in a while and keep you up to date with what's happening, and quite look forward to any questions that you might have at the end. So this slide is just some quick facts about interior health. The fact that we serve a population of 750,000 people. We do that in a fairly large geographic area. We have a budget of about $2 billion. It's not change sitting around just to be spent. It's pretty committed. We serve 59 municipalities across IH and have, I believe it is, 56 hospitals and facilities across the entire area.
So this is an interesting slide that shows which patient populations are using the healthcare system and how much resources are going into delivering services and programs to each of these groups of patients. As you can see, the last three population groups near the bottom of the slide, frail in community, frail in care, and end of life, are the smallest segment of interior health population, but they use the fairly highest proportion of healthcare resources. The majority of the patient population are seniors.
Last fall, when asked by a reporter about seniors' care in BC, our health minister emphasized that the goal is to have services and supports in place so people can remain at home as long as possible. It's where they would prefer to be to get their services, at home, in a familiar and comfortable setting. This shift not only benefits the patient, but the healthcare system as a whole. You have to press it with
really firmly.
Firmly. So moving into the next 3 years, Interior Health's 5 key strategies are outlined here. A mandate from the BC government is guiding Interior Health and the other health authorities toward an integrated primary and community care health system, where services shift from hospitals to the community. These are our 5 key strategies that we'll go into in a little bit more detail in a moment. So why do we want to shift our resources? Changing populations are prompting governments around the world to find better ways of providing care in the community for people who are living longer, have complex medical needs, and who prefer to live at home from birth to death. The goal that we are aiming for over the next few years is to have integrated teams of care that include physicians and other primary care practitioners, along with other health professionals that provide the right care for the right patient at the right time in the right setting. How are we going to do this? For the past 4 years, Interior Health has been studying, testing, and evaluating a redesigned healthcare system that integrates primary and community care services. This work was guided by the BC government's Innovation and Change agenda to drive meaningful change across the health system and incorporate 3 foundational objectives: to improve the patient and provider experience, to improve the health of populations, and to improve and reduce the per capita cost of healthcare. Projects undertaken in interior health have been quite successful, but they have only reached a small number of people within our area. And so our goal now is to take the learnings from those projects and spread it across all of our communities and services. The first strategy really is the cornerstone of what we will be looking at. Primary care is the principal point of consultation and treatment for patients in the healthcare system. For most of us, it's when you go and see your physician or nurse practitioner. Within this strategy, we will create a system of primary care at the community level known as the primary care home. This will be built on integrating or linking family practices with individuals and families who also provide effective access to higher level specialized services. A key outcome is to appropriately support the healthcare needs of non-acute patients in the community and reduce occupancy within our largest 8 hospitals by 2017-18. In the South Okanagan at this time, we're at the very earliest planning stages and hope to have a clear process for community consultation by this fall.
So building from the system of primary care that Susan explained in the previous slide, the intent with this strategy is to leverage the planning work already underway in IH to reposition our healthcare for older adults. The work began last summer with local action teams in Kamloops and the Central Okanagan. The focus for this strategy is to provide integrated specialized care and community-based services for older patients who have moderate to complex medical conditions and frailty, including dementia. Care planning will take place in collaboration with older patients and their families, and in fact, patient and family representatives have been part of the local action teams helping to design the path moving forward. Our target within this strategy is to support independent living at home or in the community so that less than 3% of people aged 75 years and older with a chronic disease require hospital care by 2017-18.
The third strategy, again, is building on the first one with primary care, and this is to improve community healthcare delivery and outcomes for mental health and substance use clients. We've actually started work on this in the South Okanagan with the creation of Martin Street Outreach Center in Penticton, which has brought us leaps and bounds ahead of many other communities in how we are servicing a population that usually has a great deal of difficulty accessing mainstream health care, and as a result tends to be high users of the emergency department. Strategy 4 that Maureen was going to talk about has to do with timely access to elective surgery. And this is, a lot of the other strategies talk about primary care with the idea that we can get people out of the hospital who don't need to be there, and that we can then focus our hospitals on delivering the sorts of care that they specialize in providing. The goal that we have is over this next year that 95% of patients who are scheduled to have elective surgery will have it completed within 40 weeks. And that's 40 weeks after they are put on the waiting list, not necessarily from the first time you see your doctor. And by 1819, so leading us into the next couple of years, the goal is to have 95% of patients completing their surgery within the first 26 weeks. The last strategy talks about rural health care. And again, this one is in development at this stage in time, but it's building on the first strategy about improved primary health care. We hope to see more work coming on this in the fall, although we have some very good examples of work that's already happening in this area. I was at an early planning meeting today, and we were discussing some of the places where we have had successes that we want to build on, and two of the communities that we have identified are Summerland and Princeton.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy accomplishments, and one of those is in end-of-life care. In late April, funding was allocated to support enhancement of local hospice provision in a few communities across IH. This included funds for the development of and access to palliative day hospice. Desert Valley Hospice received $30,000 for the development of a palliative day hospice in Osoyoos. This funding supports the ministry's commitment to double hospice spaces by 2020.
Around substance use spaces, this is another goal that has been set by the ministry that's part of our movement towards improved primary care. And 73 substance use beds have been approved for interior health. Of those, 10 of them will be coming to the South Okanagan. And what a supportive recovery bed is, it's a place where clients are able to have a substance-free setting while they await residential treatment or return from treatment, or are simply transitioning to a more stable lifestyle. The other program that we have coming forward as part of this is the Community Paramedicine Program. This was a key initiative that came out of the last union settlement with BC Ambulance Services to increase the number of steady, permanent positions that existed in rural communities, and be able to do that by supporting our move to primary care. The Community Paramedicine Program is a very successful program in other places in Canada and the US. We are just bringing it into British Columbia now. One of our prototype communities has been Princeton, so we have been trialing it out there. And we will have a permanent person in that position by fall, and then we will be rolling out to our next round to include Carameas. Briefly speaking about medical schools, there are two medical programs outside the Lower Mainland, and that's very important. The Southern Interior Medical Program out of the University of British Columbia at the Okanagan campus is one of those two programs, the other one being in Prince George at UNBC. When you have medical students that attend within their region and then are able to go out and have their practicum experiences and locum placements within rural settings, we are much more likely to be able to attract and keep physicians in our rural communities. We know that we continue to have many physician vacancies across interior health, but we've actually had consistent success in recruiting physicians. According to the data from Health Match BC, there were 27 permanent positions filled in 2015, which is excellent news for the South Okanagan rural. Part of the work that we do is in collaboration with physicians through a group that's called the Division of Family Practice. The partnership that we have with this division allows us to have more collaborative working relationships with doctors, and we've seen the success of this over the past 6 years. In the South Okanagan, we have built a strong foundation of partnership, which is essential to our working moving forward with the primary care home development. This is going to be a fundamental shift in how healthcare works together to provide more integrated and responsive primary care. Just some of the examples of very successful projects that we've had in the South Okanagan over the past few years include the ones that are listed here, which have included almost all of the communities across the South Okanagan have been touched by these projects. Whoops, I went too fast that time. Just wanted to speak briefly about population health and the health promotion portfolio. Interior Health is committed to collaborating and partnering with local governments to create policies and environments that support good health. In the South Okanagan, we do that largely through the Okanagan Similkameen Healthy Living Coalition. Thank you. And we have an IH representative who is Julie Steffler, who is dedicated to working within our area to support the work of the coalition and other activities that lead to promotion and, of population health. We want to work together on things like developing parks, pathways, bike trails, age-friendly communities, food security policies, positive changes in the food and drink selections that you might see in vending machines in community centers and sports facilities, encouraging community gardens, banning smoking in public places, or whatever the next initiative is that communities are looking to move forward on. Just wanted to finish by the fact that we really value the partnerships that we have going forward. The work of Interior Health could not happen without the very significant partnerships that happen. We work with the regional district, regional hospital district, local and regional foundations and auxiliaries, the First Nations Health Authority, and the letters of understanding that we have with Interior Health's First Nations through Okanagan Nation Alliance and with all of our municipalities. So at this point in time, we're open if you have any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Peak?
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm wondering how we stand in terms of being able to attract specialists to our area and what efforts we make in that regard.
Maureen would have been able to give you the numbers on this one much better than I can. What I do know is that a few years ago, we had quite a few vacancies within our specialist teams, and we were recruiting very hard and were able to successfully fill most all of them. We monitor all of our specialist vacancies, working with the division, working with Interior Health, working with provincial agencies. We certainly are always bringing through more specialists, and we will continue to do that because we know that we have turnover within that team. However, I would say where we were 2 years ago and where we are now, we've come a long ways.
If I might follow up with that, with your, excuse me, working towards 40 weeks and 26 weeks, I didn't get the note on the 26 weeks, what that referred to, but you must be doing a greater correlation between how many family practitioners you have, the teams that you're going to roll out, and your electives being oftentimes specialists, orthopedic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be closely monitoring those systems working together in order to bring those guarantees into fruition.
Absolutely. And what I was referring to, and I know it's a lot of numbers, but within the next year, what we're aiming for is that 95% of people who are registered to have elective surgery will have it within 40 weeks of when that occurs. And by 3 years from now, we want that time period, instead of being 40 weeks, to be 26 weeks.
Thank you.
We absolutely are looking at how we can improve primary care so that we move people through faster, and so that we have the people in the beds at the hospital that are the ones that need to be there. So often, with a lack of other services, we find, especially in our heavily populated seniors population, that there are many people that, if we had known about it sooner, we could have put in better resources to help support them. And that's what we want to be able to do, is identify those people sooner. Almost all of them see their physicians. So how do we work with the physicians to improve the care that they get in the community so that they can maintain their health for a longer period of time before they need to have residential or acute care services put in place? And so that's our aim over the next 3 years, is really to try and shift how services are being delivered.
And if I may, just a couple other points. The 35% of chronic, is that part of that senior population as well as across the board?
Yes.
Because that's your highest percent at 35%.
Absolutely. And, there are many figures you can look at with the people that have 2 chronic conditions or 2 or more chronic conditions, and you really start to see that it layers one on top of another.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Holmes?
I don't know if this is within your remit or not, but In the South Okanagan, there's a lot of people have a hard time getting a family doctor, finding a family doctor. I'm just wondering if you're aware if that situation is improving, if there's anything being done to address that, and if that's anything that Interior Health is involved in.
So I was talking about the Division of Family Practice and the partnership we have with them. And for the past 3 years, we've been involved with a partnership called a GP for Me. This came from everybody will have a family physician who wants. Everybody may not have a family physician who wants one, but we did attach a large number of people. What really wasn't taken into account then is that doctors are not static either, that they continue to retire, and when they retire, it's not like the days where they would sell their practice and a physician would come in and buy it. Nowadays, it usually means that they've worked far longer than they ought to, and they still end up not being able to find placements for their practices. And so what we are trying to do is work with physicians in a number of different ways. How do we improve recruitment? How do we improve retention? One of the things that we know is that new physicians coming in expect that their practices that they're starting in will have good electronic medical records. We still have many older physicians who are paper-based. How do we help them see that by moving to an electronic medical record, they're making their practice more attractive for a newer physician coming in? We also, through what's called the Practice Support Program, have helped physicians in setting up different ways of managing their offices and their booking systems to try and improve the flow through so that you're not getting we can get you an appointment in 3 weeks, but hopefully there's some time built in that you're going to be able to get in each day. One of the things that we're looking at with the primary health care plan going forward is how do we have alternatives to your family doctor in the evening so that the only option open to you isn't just the emergency department, but there may be a place that you can call, somebody who knows your record is able to look at it and say, yes, you need to absolutely go to emergency, or no, I can tell you this right now, you do this for this evening, I'll see you in my office in the morning, that type of thing. So again, not quick fixes, but where we're going in the next few years.
Councillor Booth, did you have a question?
I have the same, thank you. I have the same question as Councillor Holmes, but I have another one too. So this is just my understanding of this. The 5 key strategies, that is throughout all the health authorities, or is it just for Interior Health?
So the Ministry of Health has defined that this is what they want us all to achieve. Interior Health has branded it as the 5 key strategies so that it's front and center for all of our staff. I think you would be hard-pressed to find a staff member in IH now who hasn't heard of them. And that's purposeful so that we make sure that everybody feels the commitment and is involved with the changes.
I'm not staff, and this is the 3rd time I've heard of it. So.
Yes, last Monday. And
yes, that's good.
Yeah, I have a question. It seems to be quite a new initiative or a new thought that paramedics, that there would be community paramedics. This is quite a different role than I know of paramedics.
It absolutely is. And a large part of it is that paramedics in rural communities only get paid when they get called out. And when they're on call, they receive a very small stipend. The problem is that in a rural community, you might not get called that often, and it becomes difficult to have a living wage. And so we often lose paramedics to larger communities where they can have more stability. Through the creation of these positions, we're able to create some stability by having people who can make that living wage and then be available to be on call for emergency services. The services that they'll provide are often services that our community health care programs cannot get to. So things like the patient who is discharged from emergency, and it would be very helpful to have somebody who goes to the house and sees what the situation is. Do they have food? Do they have medication? It might be 10 o'clock at night. Can they get into their house? Oftentimes, it's vital signs monitoring. The doctor will say, I would feel much better if I knew what your blood pressure was every day for the next week, so that I knew that sending you home was the right decision. And then you have somebody going in and monitoring that blood pressure and reporting back to the physician. And unfortunately, our home health nurses don't get that opportunity to do that. So we're learning to see what it is that this scope will entail. But again, as I mentioned, we have a lot of good examples to go from where these programs have been quite active in places in Ontario. California are two that I'm familiar with, but they are spreading across North America.
So is this within the scope of existing paramedics training?
It is within the scope of existing paramedics practice, how it's laid out. They will get additional training.
Okay.
There's a 14-week training course that we've been working to develop that they will take before they move out into the community.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Peak, short, please.
Quick question. Day hospice, can you give me just a capsule of what that means?
Day hospital?
Hospice.
Oh, day hospice. That's a brand new, do you want to talk about that one, Cindy?
So day hospital is
Day hospice.
Day hospice, pardon me. We kind of both terms out there. Day hospice is virtually a newer concept that's come into play. They have it located in various areas and trialed this concept across Canada. What that entails is that people who are can come in for the day to a hospice center to receive counseling, grief support as they are moving through the stages of their, and then be able to go home in the evening. So it provides them with a little bit more of that socialization and support as they're moving through the trajectory of their illness.
Sounds excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Appreciate
for the opportunity.
coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, council, we just need to look at the resolution of receiving the IHA report that's being presented to us. Can I have a motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Barkwell.
I move that the council pass the following resolution, that the presentation from Susan Brown and Senior Hearing Health Services Administrators from Ontario Health be received for information.
Seconded, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Moving on to 5.2, South Okanagan-Smokeman Conservation Program. Bryn White.
Thank you very much. I must remember to wear heels next time I come.
I've already had that thing lowered 6 inches.
Uh-oh.
Different legs on it.
That's my
I keep rising it.
Thanks very much for just having a few minutes on your agenda tonight. I have a bit of a background letter that I put together just to give you some context. Really what I'm here to do is to kind of support a conversation this evening. The South Okanagan-Similkameen Conservation Program has been talking with our local government partners over the last number of years about exploring the concept of establishing a local conservation fund. And I've been here previously and we've talked about the concept of a conservation fund, and I'll just remind you, the idea is really based on a small property levy, and it's to create a dedicated source of funding and revenue for the purpose of undertaking conservation projects. So this could include land acquisition or stewardship projects, and we've heard about all kinds of projects and programs around the RDOS board table where this has been something that's been discussed recently. The funds are controlled by local government, so all the allocations are made through an application system, so outside organizations are able to apply to the fund in order to be able to carry out their work. And local governments oversee that. Often in other places in the province, what we've seen is that technical advice and support can be provided by an independent technical committee. And so partnerships like ours, the SOSCP, are able to support local governments in being able to bring technical folks to the table to provide recommendations around allocation of those funds. What's a good project? What's a valuable project? What's cost efficient? What's important based on science? So that's how we see it be administered in other areas. two successful funds that we've been watching have been in the East and West Kootenays. And so we've been building on the success of the East Kootenay, the first one that was established, the Columbia Valley Local Conservation Fund, that's raised locally $1.5 million in the last 6 years or so and has supported over 70 conservation projects. And so my colleague Dave Hillary was here not long ago at the end of April at the RDOS board. He talked about their experience, their challenges and complexities and successes with respect to setting up their conservation fund. And he talked about the kinds of projects that have been supported in and around the East Kootenays with those funds. And so we heard everything from some major land acquisitions to stewardship projects that did wildland interface fire protection, for example, and put out of work forestry folks back to work doing habitat restoration. We heard about stewardship projects that protected watersheds and ensured clean and safe drinking water for communities. So all kinds of things under the banner of conservation being really beneficial for communities. So tonight, I just wanted to support you in a conversation potentially. There is a motion that's sitting at the RDOS board table. It will be coming back for decision this Thursday, June 16th. And I just wanted to just to remind folks what the current motion is at the RDOS board table. So it was made by Director Bryden back in the end of April. And the motion is for the establishment of a local conservation fund with participants to include the Okanagan members. Interestingly enough, I'll be heading to rural area H, rural Princeton, tomorrow night to have a conversation with them because they may not want to be left out of that opportunity. So we're going to have a chat then. But the invitation's open for member municipalities and electoral areas throughout the regional district Okanagan-Similkameen. But the motion was made just to get it started. The average requisition amount is to be set at $10 a household. And when we did public opinion research and focus group work, when we talked to people about the conservation fund idea, $10 really seemed to be a reasonable amount that people supported. Is quite a publicly supported amount. And so that's what the proposal is. The actual taxation basis is ad valorem, which is by assessed percentage of assessed value rather than a flat parcel tax. So that's how the RDOS has chosen to bring this motion forward. And again, just investment decisions being based on recommendations of a technical committee. So having some technical advice, being able to support the decisions of fund allocations, and an assent process through an alternate approval process and or referendum if required. So this is the motion at the table at the RDOS, and communities it's a great opportunity to have a chance for communities to talk about this together and then come back to the RDOS board table to decide whether they want to be part of the establishment of the local conservation fund.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle.
So if there's X number of dollars raised in Summerland, does that go in a pool for work in Summerland, or does it go in a pool for the Okanagan and then decisions made from there?
So this has been a really interesting part of the conversation. One of the intention of a sub-regional fund is that funds get pooled together and regional projects get decided on. So it won't always be that the funds get spent directly in the community. What I've discovered working with my colleague in the Kootenays, both East and West Kootenays, is that that the decisions made are regionally equitable, that they are really the priorities of what's required on the landscape, and communities are very happy with how those decisions get made. They're very happy with the results of the projects. There isn't really a time where there's been a lot of conflict around how those funds are spent. They seem to be able to have some mechanisms built in that make it quite equitable. And that's what we're hoping to do through the terms of reference here.
I'll just jump in here on the average requisition at $10 a household now. I gather, though, the actual amount per household will be based on a taxation base in terms of the actual value of properties?
Mm-hmm. By a percentage, yeah.
Yeah, so the percentage will end up having an average result of $10 per household.
Yes.
Could be 2 or 3 on one and 15
Yeah.
on another.
My understanding is the range is somewhere between $7 and $13, somewhere in there.
Okay, so is the percent is in what sort of range?
I can't quite give you there's a little black box that the CFO, probably you'd be able to work this out, Lori, but it's a mill rate essentially, and
Yeah.
so it works out to it's
It seems it'd be a very small.
yes,
percentage.
yeah, it's like 0.001 of,
Okay. Counselor Peak, then Counselor Trainer?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So that's a per year, it's an annual charge.
correct,
So
yeah.
I might pay $30 a year or $20 a year or
It'll be
whatever.
closer between $7 and $13, somewhere in that range per
Okay,
year.
So it'll be a mathematical adjustment to make it in that range, and that would be a yearly amount.
Yes.
So I might pay $50 over 5 years.
Correct.
Towards this fund.
Correct,
Thank
yeah.
you. That's not clear in this report.
Thank you for that clarification. I should also mention that the motion does say for 5 years, and then it will be considered after 5 years, so 5 years then renewable.
It doesn't say per year, that's why I'm,
Thank you. I'll make sure that future things say per
Okay.
year.
thanks.
Thank you.
Counselor Trainer?
So, how long before you actually start spending this money? So with the Kootenays, when they started collecting it, what was the time between then and when the first project was?
That is a great question. So the Kootenays started their requisition in 2008, I believe. It passed in November of 2008. So 2009 was their first year of requisition. The first project got started in 2010. It was right away. And the great thing with our partnership is, we've got 50 organizations that are sitting in partnership waiting to come to the table to deliver a lot of projects in the South Okanagan Similkameen.
Counselor Carlson?
If you don't get all of those communities on board to actually buy into this, will it continue to go ahead at on a smaller scale or on a different scale?
Yeah, yep. I think we have the opportunity to, whoever decides to participate, this is the beauty of this tool, is very flexible. So whoever decides to participate is in the pool. So if it's the electoral areas, then the funding will get regionally spent in the electoral areas. If if municipalities decide to participate as well, then it all gets pooled in, and communities can come on later if they decide that this is something they want to join in on. They can join in at the next requisition period. There's no penalty or anything like that. So it's a very flexible tool.
There's a question I had. I guess you implied there that this money would be used to leverage money from some of your other partners.
Yes. Yeah.
So what sort of outcome could there be? I mean, I'm just quickly looked at $10 a household average here.
Right.
You're looking at, $45,000.
Right. So if we had all of the electoral areas and municipalities in the South Okanagan participate, we could be raising $450,000 per year
Yeah.
over each year for the next 5 years. And what we see in the conservation world is that those local investments help to leverage quite significant outside dollars. So usually you see at the minimum 2 to 3 times the local investment
That's
to
what I'm
leverage those
driving at.
outside.
What was the result in these Kootenai then?
The East Kootenai is significant, yeah. So, for example, there was an acquisition of a property that was in private in-holding surrounded by parkland. And so this private in-holding was a significant priority for the communities, for First Nations, for industry. And so that investment from the local conservation fund of $700,000 was able to leverage multi-millions of dollars from outside grants, foundations, private industry to be able to pick up that lot on Columbia Valley, or on Columbia Lake,
Without that
sorry.
leveraging, I don't see that you can have a major impact. And,
Right,
the seed money that this provides will give you the leverage to actually do something of adequate significance.
that's right.
Councillor Holmes, and then we're going to have to move along, I think.
The last time you presented to us, we talked also about the idea of having our own fund,
Mhm.
Summerland. Is that something that would still be on the table, that we could work with you?
Absolutely. So really, heading into this Thursday, the conversation around the RD West board table will communities want to participate in a sub-regional fund, or is this something that they'd like to do on their own? Is this something to meet your own needs? And our conservation partnership would be supportive of either of those choices. We'd be happy to support you in either one of those things. I'll let you know that the town of Osoyoos is going forward through a public process to be able to ask public what they'd like to do. Would they like to participate in something that's regionally driven, or is there something that they'd like to do independently? So they're going to have a conversation with the community and get back to the regional district board and let them know. So the door is open, and like I said, if the community decides it wants to come in and participate regionally later, that would be fine. And if it's something that you could see doing here in Summerland to address some of the significant conservation, watershed protection, sustainability aspects that you'd like to achieve, we'd be happy to support you in doing that.
Anyway, thank you very much, Brent.
You're very
Appreciate
welcome.
the report.
Thank you.
And,
We'll see you Thursday.
yes, we'll see you Thursday. To our CAO, given that the meeting's Thursday, what about,
There actually was supposed to be an agenda item on here for discussion of the topic, and I note that it's not on the agenda. So if the RDOS council members, board members are looking for direction for that meeting or input, you should have the debate now.
okay. So, yeah, I was hoping we could do something like this, so what's council's wish? Right now, we've heard what Bryn has to say, we've heard it several times, and it's one of those issues that we can see the large issues. I look at, for example, the rehab of the Okanagan River and what's happened there with, trying to reverse channeling, and that's the sort of major projects that are affecting there. But, when I look at, in that sort of a scenario, but I look at that kind of larger project as being something that impacts the water quality and the habitat in the area. But at some point in time, that may actually come back to us in the form of some other project that would be more suitable or more applicable to Summerland, but would also enhance the regional situation. And here I'm looking at, say, for example, our watershed. There could be projects within our watershed that will definitely more directly benefit us, but at the same time enhancing the status or whatever of our watershed tends to impact the rest of the South Okanagan. So I tend to think, and one of the reasons why I got involved in the regional board initially was to see where Summerland sat and the impact and what our contribution could be in the region. And so my, personally, or the way I look at it is I want to be able to encourage projects that enhance aspects of the South Okanagan that indirectly will impact us, and we may have some that more directly impact us as we go down the road. Is that my interpretation, more or less on target there, Brent?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So that's sort of where, personally I'd like to sort of move in the direction of looking at projects where we can use a larger fund of money to have major impacts that ultimately will, at some point in time, either regionally or sub-regionally have an impact, and possibly for us more directly. Councillor Barkwell.
The first question, I guess, is we have to decide is would the community support seeing their taxes go up for a project like this? And I think that the environment is increasingly a concern, and that they would. So then you get to the question of, are we going to have a fund that is controlled locally or part of the regional?
That's what I was
district?
driving
Yeah,
at just
and
now.
I lean the other way. I'd rather see a fund that's controlled locally and for Summerland priority projects myself. But, in one vote.
Councillor Carlson and Councillor Holmes.
I think it would be kind of torn between those two options. I do think that if most of these communities get on board, and if there's a lot of buy-in through the whole region, I certainly would like to be part of the regional strategy. I think if you only had, one far down in the south and maybe Summerland, I don't see it working quite as well as a full-on regional system. So I would like to believe that most people and most local governments would understand the importance of doing this and buy into a larger scheme, and I currently believe that we should drive that one home and see if we can't convince or show some leadership in getting in that direction, and see if others will get on board as well.
Councillor Holmes? And then Councillor Booth?
Yeah, I think, kind of leaning towards what Councillor Barker was saying, I just think where Summerland is located in the RDOS, I think most of the benefits we would, out of regional projects, would be indirect benefits as opposed to more direct ones, which if we had our own fund, we could have projects that directly benefited Summerland. Having said that, I would like to, I certainly would be interested to see what the response is on Thursday. If it's overwhelming, then it might
I think
force our hand a little bit.
Well, what we're looking for here, Councillor Holmes, is direction for the reps.
Yeah, I understand
And,
that.
you know, you just heard what my inclination is, but if it's an overwhelming situation from council not to go, then I have to sort of follow council's wishes, but,
That's why I'm giving you my thoughts.
yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Trainer?
I had more.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Booth, then Councillor Trainer.
Is it okay to ask Bryn to come to the mic for
Yeah, as the
clarification?
presenter,
Yeah.
So for clarification,
Mhm.
Could you reread the resolution
Mhm.
for us, please?
Absolutely. So the motion that's sitting at the RDOS board table now is to establish a sub-regional fund. So participants including the Okanagan members, so Penticton, Summerland, Oliver, Osoyoos, Area A, C, D, E, and F. The average requisition amount to be set at $10 a household per year. The actual taxation basis be ad valorem, so it would be a percentage of assessed value rather than a flat parcel tax. The term of the fund to be 5 years renewable, and investment decisions to be made by participants based on the recommendations of a technical advisory committee. So the advisory committee provide science-based recommendations based on a very, very clear terms of reference and criteria, decision-making criteria, and they make those recommendations to the local governments that are participating. And local governments make the final decisions around the approval of projects and the allocation of funds. So it would come down to a vote of only the participants that were part of that service area. And I assume it would be a weighted vote. So Summerland has more weight around that table than individual electoral areas, just as it happens. And then what the process would be is that the bylaw, the service bylaw, would go forward. It would go through an alternate approval process. I think you have some choices about how that gets done over the next number of months, and referendum if required. So there would still be a public assent process.
Okay, so that's really what I was looking for, is clarification that there would be a public assent process.
Yeah.
And what you're looking for from us tonight is how we as a Summerland Council feel about this concept, this resolution.
Around, yes, participating in a sub-regional fund with the other electoral areas and potentially municipalities.
And it will still go through for public consultation through the approval process?
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Trainer?
I would support a regional, would support Summerland being part of a regional effort. I think when it comes to the environment, South Okanagan is all related, and I know that I go down to Oliver and Osoyoos and all those areas, and I go hiking, and I'm sure a lot of people in Summerland do that, just like people come up here to enjoy the environment as well. So I think, most times I'm all about Summerland first, but I think in this instance, it would be good to partner with other communities on projects like this, and seems like it's been successful in the Kootenays, so I think it would be good to try something like that here.
Thank you. Councillor Peak?
Yes, I appreciate the presentation. I understand it's to educate us so we can direct our representatives on how we think we should go. I definitely feel that it should be a regional. We are an ecosystem. We are not one on to ourselves. And I think the leveraging of funds across Canada, whether it's conservation or climate change or sustainability, has been shown to be multipliers, sometimes of more than 2 or 3. So I think it's a great opportunity, and certainly we go back to an approval process from the public, but I think for $10 a year and $50 for 5 years, I think that you probably create great buy-in. I think there's great value for the whole valley as well as Summerland itself.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. Councillor Holmes?
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead.
What's the difference between regional and sub-regional?
So a whole regional service would include absolutely everybody at the regional district board table. So it would include all the electoral areas in the South Okanagan and Similkameen and all the municipalities. So the director that put this motion forward decided, it might be more palatable in just the South Okanagan. Maybe there's more traction there. They'll start with a motion that just includes the South Okanagan. So that's what they refer to as a sub-regional fund. But a sub-regional service can be any collection of disparate areas.
So it doesn't include the Similkameen?
At this time, it doesn't. But potentially after tomorrow night, maybe.
Great.
Councillor Carlson?
Can you clarify if Penticton at the RDOS board with their weighted vote decided they weren't going to participate, would that kill the entire motion?
No.
Could it go without them if everyone else was in favor?
Absolutely, yeah. If Penticton decided to do something different, if it decided to have its own fund or not participate, that would be fine. And they just wouldn't vote in the decision-making around the allocation of the funds.
So on Thursday, this potentially could, with that core group of people, could get, maybe it could fail, but then it could again come forward without the groups who don't want to participate and go through
Yeah,
the motion.
it's whoever wants to participate. Really, the decision is around electoral areas and municipalities committing to the process of public engagement, the alternate approval process, and their expression of interest to be part of a sub-regional fund.
Thanks.
So, Council, I'd like to ask for a motion to support the existing RDOS motion, and reflects that you direct the representatives to the RDOS board to support the resolution that's before the board. Somebody like to express that, Councillor?
I will move a motion as the mayor just stated.
Okay, thank
And I'll
you.
second it.
Seconder, thank you, Councillor Peak. Any further discussion? Councillor Holmes?
I'll just be voting against, just because I think we're better off with our own fund.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you very much, Brent.
Thank you for your time and attention, and I really appreciate you getting to know the material, and I'm looking forward to doing this. However it ends up in the end, I think we're going to have something very positive.
Well, we've had a glimpse at some of the types of projects. When I think of the First Nations fish hatchery work on the channel, you know, the reversing at the channelization areas down in the South Okanagan and so on. It's only a process that has to be done with all kinds of projects to enhance the environment and habitat and our own recreation potential. So, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Ben.
Appreciate it.
So we're moving on to item 6. There's an opportunity for the public to comment on any highlighted item on their agenda. So if anybody from the public would like to make a comment, please do so. Looks like nobody's coming up, so thank you very much. We'll move ahead to my report. It seems summer got a great start with Action Fest weekend, from the parade, the Man of Steel Triathlon, to a large successful ball tournament. The parade route was well jammed with families, and the music in the park was well attended. I'd like to thank the Action Fest committee under Chair Pat Bell for a wonderfully choreographed event, as well as Brenda Ingram and the recreation staff, and Chris Johnson and the public works staff for their hard work. I participated in 2 events recently: the kickoff for Tourism Week in British Columbia by manning the desk at our Visitor Information Center with the chamber staff, and I didn't actually misdirect anybody. I was able to give them considerable information, as I've spent a good many years here and have walked almost all the properties in the municipality. So in addition to that, I participated in Camp Day at Tim Hortons. Both of these sessions were great opportunities to meet and greet. And as you know, I have great difficulty in conversing and holding my own with respect to conversations, but I did manage quite well there. So anyway, I think it went very well. It's amazing the number of people that go through Tim Hortons on that. I guess it's any morning, but camp day, it was just kept coming, and it was absolutely amazing. I also can't forget our first Sunday market was held yesterday. The vendors were many and varied, with lots of Summerland businesses and farms well represented. There was great music and provided atmosphere. And then there was a sudden appearance of the Summerland School of Dance flash mob doing dance routines, and that was a real hit. So it was kind of a deviation from last year. I hope they continue to do that sort of thing. And I'm sure there's a number of other events that councillors will mention in their reports, so I won't add anything there. The one issue that's still with us is the school closing issue. It's still of major concern. MLA Ashton has made an offer of dollars and the option of an advisor to assist the board. I and council are extremely disappointed that the board refused to seek a way to re-examine the closing of Trout Creek School. The reality of the impact on students and all Summerland families and the attractiveness of Summerland as a place to come and live should urge the school board to examine any and all options. I do find it difficult to believe that a community of almost 12,000 residents can manage to meet the community's educational needs and growth expectations with only one elementary school. But adding to that, I do understand that as we're speaking, I believe the school board is meeting, and they're considering a motion to reconsider their decision not to request the assistance of a special advisor. So they may have already made that decision, I don't know at this point, but we'll see what transpires as a result of their meeting. And that's my report.
Okay, I have a few things to update council on. The first thing that council should be aware of, and I don't think we've mentioned yet, is that that every year a municipality is required to hold an annual general meeting and produce an annual report. So the annual meeting, which is the purpose of an annual meeting, is to adopt the report. The draft version of our annual report is now available. It has some refinement that will happen between now and 2 weeks from now when it comes to council, but we will make sure that council gets a copy emailed, and it needs to be available for the public for a couple of weeks to make sure there's no errors or omissions in it. The purpose of an annual report, there's a financial section that it does have the financial statements in it. There's an overview of each department. There's council's objectives, strategic plan, and the progress on all the strategic plans. In the past, the District of Summerland has done an annual report, but they haven't actually produced a full report. They've just complied with the requirements of the legislation, but we've tried to put a document together, and hopefully every year now we'll put something together that is a good reflection of the year in review, to have it as a summary of the past year and looking forward. So our annual meeting will be on June, the next regular council meeting. I think I briefly noted that UBCM is coming up, and in September, and we, over the next meeting or two, we'll be talking about what ministers that we want to meet, so I encourage council to be putting those thoughts together. There's a number of items that we're going to come to council, and then just time limitations on various staff members haven't brought them to council, so for just a quick couple. One of them, as you know, on the agenda tonight is the Canada 150 infrastructure grant request, which we'll be talking about in a couple of minutes. But along with that, there's also a Canada 150 actual program, which is not infrastructure, it's more of a program. And there has been a recommendation from the Heritage Commission that for a particular project that council may have seen. I'm not sure, you might have seen them in the minutes, but we haven't brought it forward, so it'll be coming forward for discussion at the next meeting. There has been now from 3 separate sources, moving on to the next subject, the thought of doing a project in our community called their little houses for library books. Councillor Holmes talked to me about it, and we've had two residents bringing it forward as far as an idea, and these are small houses that are, they look like maybe large tree, little
Cabinets or
bird houses, large bird houses on a tree or on a front of a building, and they've got some sort of cabinet and books are inside them. And actually, I was in a community just recently and was going for a run, and there was one there that was clearly well used. So I wanted to, especially for those that have talked to me about it, we've talked about it for staff and think it's a great idea, but we are going to bring a full report back next council meeting just on some logistics. So I didn't want you to think it had fallen off the table. The other thing that we've been talking a lot about is the UBC, or not a lot about, but came up and then I haven't mentioned since, is the study that UBC is doing with some grad students on the perpetual slide, and the thought that we could be working with UBC and gathering some good information in conjunction with the information we're gathering. Just wanted to let council know that there was some hiccups with that, as with some projects. When we started to review some of the data that was coming and got some other outside advice on what was coming, it turns out that what they're doing with that project, the purpose of their project, is not quite the same as what will be valuable to us. But when we started to look at that, we realized that we didn't have any contract or any agreement with them, and some of the activities that they were doing, there was quite a bit of risk involved as far as the actual flying of the drone and certification that was required that perhaps they didn't have. So they've stepped back because UBC also encourages them to have that same information, so, the agreement with the municipality. So we are actively working together with them now to see what we can do. And we have they've submitted now what their project actually is, and we're actively on it. It's just paused. They needed to rethink some of the scope of the project themselves for what the information that they're looking for. So, of course, drones. There's a lot of attention right now with federal guidelines with drones, and being a municipality, we want to ensure that we're complying ourselves on any activity that we're allowing. So it's all positive, and it all is going to be very valuable as well in the long run with us. And within our own workforce here, we have hired a part-time building inspector who started today as per the financial plan, and we're continuing to be busy. The community development coordinator, we've had a lot of interest in that one, and it closes on Friday, and there's an alignment with the electrical department, and it closes on Thursday. So from some of the budget approvals, we're finally getting some action happening. The climate action sustainability coordinator is high on my priority list to get that posting out and get the climate action rolling again. As you know, sustainability, you talked about that particular fund tonight, but within our own selves, we need to be ramping up what we're doing ourselves as well. So, and then lastly, our asset management plan. I've had many inquiries what we're doing with that, and that I've been working with a couple of consultants and other municipalities that are undergoing a similar plan to find out what's working and not working for them, because the last thing council wants is a study that's going to sit on the shelf and not be just be a long list of numbers. And so that RFP should be ready to go out within the end of next week. So
what's the timeline for actually having somebody proceed through? Because we've received funding to do the.
Well, if the RFP goes out at the end end of next week, then it depends on when it's broken out. So pieces of the plan will be ready fairly quickly after that, but it's been good to learn on a complex one like ours, where there's different studies and different pieces, how they're all working together. So it's.
Yeah, the reason I'm, asking particularly is just that, we are looking forward to what that information will give us in terms of where we move, how we move, and when we move on various
Mhm.
infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Things,
I
that's all.
think just, it's always one of those things when you have the ability to get new resources, the time it takes to implement, there's a number of things that are in the waiting list, but between the number of people in our organization that does the actual RFPs or the recruitments or whatever, they're limited, and it's simply not possible to go any faster.
Can I ask a question on that?
Pardon me?
Can I ask a question about that?
Yes.
Um,
Go ahead. You're asking
Well-
me, or?
Well, through you, yeah.
Sorry.
Will it be one RFP for the whole project? or-
That's a good question. So that is exactly what my conundrum was, because the wording where it says sewer master plan or water master, not water master plan, whatever, I was really stuck on how you could possibly have one or why you would want one. But it's not a sewer master plan in its entire, in the old form of what a master plan is. It's to take the information that you actually do some of the asset management infrastructure plan first, and then that's what's creating those plans. So where I'm leaning to right now is that, yes, it'll be one team that's working on them all, because it's actually, they're all so interrelated. And that was the epitome what was holding me up.
Good question, thank you. Mr. Chang?
I just wanted to know, were we doing a sign audit at all? Had that started yet, or?
We
are
did do a
close?
sign audit,
Mhm.
and we have the results, and it's a good and Ian and I have been talking about looking at what our next steps are. That's another one that, along with a number of these and a couple of the land appraisals, are things that are in the lineup, in
Yeah.
the queue that are ready. So we had the first step, but we haven't even.
So it's been completed, we're just.
The
waiting
sign
for-
audit has been,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do have more?
Thank you. Nope, that's it, thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much. Okay, on to correspondence, 10.1. We don't have any unfinished business resolutions,
No,
do we?
no.
Okay, 10.1, Council, are there any of the correspondence that you want to bring up, bring forward? Hearing none. Okay, could we have a motion to receive, please? Thank you.
Looking straight at me.
Well, seconder, please. Councillor Carlson, thank you very much. All in favor? What?
Discussion?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just, I note that the building statistics are at an all-time high in some categories. That's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, it's pretty busy in the office these days, for sure.
Hence the part-time
Yeah.
guy, yeah. Right. All in favor? Thank you. Carried, none opposed. Okay, 10.2, committee minutes, et cetera. Anything to be raised there? If not, someone like to bring that forward? Oh, Councillor Barco, yes, go ahead.
Perhaps you can help me. I was reading the agricultural committee minutes, and there's a couple of initialisms there that I'm not
Couple
really
of what?
sure.
Initialisms.
What's the ESA report?
Environmental sustainability, I believe. Perhaps there. Oh, environmental sensitivity, I'm sorry.
Okay, then,
Yeah.
what are the ESDPA guidelines?
I'm gonna refer that to our planner.
That's our environmentally sensitive development permit area.
Okay.
So those are the guidelines in the OCP that speak to that.
In central, environmentally sensitive areas, okay. Thanks.
The one area where there's a typo, we can deal with that. Agriculture, I think it is. But anyway. And we won't deal with the Trump part. There's been enough discussion about that in the media. So, okay. Councillor Holmes is the only one. Okay, could we have a resolution brought forward, please? Councillor Pete?
Yeah, the
Councillor
committee and
Holmes, thank
task
you.
force minutes
Oh.
included in the report dated for June 13, 2016, regular council meeting for the Manager of Legislative Services be received for information.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Carlson, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, moving ahead to 11.1. CAO, guess we're moving to Development Services. Mr. McIntosh?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first application up this evening is for the naming of a potentially new street at 5815 Highway 97. That's on the south side of Johnson Street at the intersection of Highway 97, and there was a rezoning down in there last year, and the subdivision is now underway, and it's getting close to being ready for registration, the Phase 1 part of the subdivision. So there is a new road proposed in there, and there are a couple of obvious options for naming that street. And as you can see, it is opposite Cordy Avenue on the north side of Johnson Street, although there's a bit of deflection there. So one of the options that has come forward is to name the new street Cordy Place, which follows our street naming policy. Our Heritage Advisory Commission has also suggested the name Treffry Place if council feels that a new street name is required for that street. And there's no technical reason why one is particularly better than the other, so we've just left it in council's hands to advise us as to which name they prefer.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
But it is a place, it's not it can't just be a continuation of an avenue because of the bend or because of the dead end?
Generally speaking, cul-de-sacs have a different suffix, so place would be more appropriate than avenue or street, but the name could remain as Cordy if council wished.
Councillor Peak?
I like the idea of taking advantage of the recommendations through the Heritage Commission. Treffy Place does celebrate someone who was prominent in the community, and I think it's an opportunity to have a place name that is a little different than the street across the way. It's perhaps could be less confusing for people looking for direction or in a 911 call, so I would support Treffy Place.
Councillor Barkle?
I agree 100% with Councillor Peak on this one. I think it's a chance to reduce confusion a little bit.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I think it could be even more confusing if you have an avenue on one side and a place on another with the same name. Do the developers have a preference one way or another, do you know?
We did check with them, Mr. Mayor, and they did not have a preference either way.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
It's sort of elegant.
Okay. So would someone like to bring that recommendation forward as presented? Councillor Holmes?
I move that the street extending south of Johnson Street and ending in a cul-de-sac as shown on Schedule A attached to the report dated June 13th, 2016 from the Director of Development Services be named Treffry Place.
Seconder, please. Councillor Traynor, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried, none opposed. Thank you very much. Mr. McIntosh, 11.2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a referral that staff have received with respect to a dock located at 19231 Lakeshore Drive, which is out in Crescent Beach. This is the very narrow property that recently received a development variance permit to construct a fairly narrow house on that property. They've now made a dock application. The dock does not meet our current regulations with respect to side setback, which requires 5 meters from either property line, and the property isn't 10 meters wide, so it's impossible to meet the setback requirements if a dock is to be placed there. When we get these referrals from the province, typically if the proposal does meet our regulations, we simply advise the province that we have no concerns. If it doesn't, and until such time as we get our water zoning in place, we bring these to council to ask for direction as to how we should advise the province with respect to this dock application.
Councillor Barkle?
On first blush, I think it would be very imposing on the neighbors and would at the very least want to hear what the neighbors, it's I guess because of the zoning or lack of zoning don't do a variance application, but we should at least try and treat it that way and give that respect to the neighbors before we make a decision.
Has there been any discussions?
So just to be clear, this is a referral from the province, so if there was to be consultation, likely it would be consultation by the province, because it's the application's made to the province, and the province has just asked us for our opinion. I don't know at this point in time if the province, if the neighbors are included in the referral list. In some jurisdictions they are, that if, in something like this, in the same way that we got a referral from the province, the neighbors may have got one, but I don't, do you know?
I don't know for sure. I don't believe that's part of their normal referral process, but I don't know for sure.
Mr. Markle?
Even if the province did make a referral to the neighbors, I'd like to know what the response to that was before, voting on a decision like this.
Councillor Peak?
If it's not normally the process, we're just giving our opinion for the flexibility to allow this to go forward from the front service of the province. I make note of the fact that the neighborhood property has a dock very similar in size. I might ask the planner, the small dock that's sort of on the border of the property, does that belong to the property that's going to change it to a different size dock?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this little dock in here belongs to the subject property, and it will be removed if the new dock gets approval.
Okay, I certainly see why somebody wants a dock, and I don't have a difficulty in having a dock installed in the area.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I mean, given the neighbor has one identical, I can't see that person complaining. Then the other one, well, it'd be nice to know what they have to say, but then they already have that other dock, So I let the province, throw it back to the province, and I don't have a problem with it.
Anybody else?
I thought they were always on.
Councillor Markle?
But our current regulations is a 5 meter setback. I think it used to be 3 meters. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and, it was raised for probably good reason. Having a long dock out in front of your property like that is quite imposing, so when you buy a 25-foot lot, you've got to understand that is it 25 feet? Yeah.
That's correct.
There could be some issues. We gave them a variance after consultation with the neighbors for the house itself. And I actually believe that the house is probably less imposing on the neighbors than the dock would be. You have to maybe be sitting on the shore looking to appreciate what a dock does for you visually. Anyhow, that's why I'd like to see consultation if possible, that's all.
Councillor Trainer?
I guess the province would consider this, but the only thing that I can see is it just being like a safety issue, since that the proposed dock is closer than normal to that permanent dock right there. Would it be a problem getting the boat in? That's the only thing that I can see being an issue.
And that's exactly, we had that discussion on how much, because it doesn't meet the provincial guidelines, the question is how much additional review they do on it, and we don't know that, and it does depend on the jurisdiction, it appears. I know in other jurisdictions what would happen. This is, for us, and you probably got that from our meeting, that is one of the reasons we've recommended the zoning for the water, because then council does have the jurisdiction to require consultation. But to require consultation when there is no application into us, there's really no basis to do consultation. So, because there is no application made or required of us.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Councillor, Mr. McIntosh?
I just wanted to clarify that the change in the setback that was done in when we were looking at our zoning bylaw was to harmonize our regulations with the province. So we increased our setback because that was what their setback was, and our length we increased because that was what their regulation said as well. So in this particular case, this dock does not meet the provincial regulations either. So they were simply asking us what our position is on it.
Councillor Peak?
Then I would bring a motion forward to support the dock as submitted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Holmes? Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Carlson?
Was there any timeline on when this house is going to be built? Do we know?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know for sure. I don't believe we have the building permit application in yet, but I know it's imminent. They're wanting to move forward as quickly as possible, and I suspect the architect is working on the working drawings as we speak.
I only ask because I believe we have a rule where you cannot start building your dock until you have a building on that property. Is that true?
It is true, but if the build, what has happened in the past
They
is
have a
that
building.
if the, if it's all happening at the same time, then it can happen. And did you want to speak to that?
I just want to say that that rule would be in effect if our zoning was enforceable.
That's right,
So it's
because
not-
at this point in time, we have no control on what's going in the on
Right.
in the water.
I just wonder if they want to do this now because it's summertime, if this is like, we're gonna rush and get it done, or if there's really no rush on it and it's possible to bring this back in 2 months when they've talked to the neighbors.
But again, we don't have control. This is not our,
understand.
right, so it,
Can't require
whether,
that.
when we say whether or not we can support it or not, the province still may or may not, support it, and it's difficult to say how long it'll be before, if they'll support it quickly or not quickly.
The province, Mr. Mayor, does have a timeline on for us to respond, so if we can't respond within their time frame, which is about 3 weeks to a month, then we have to request an extension from the province if we need longer time to consider the referral.
It sounds like we have no jurisdiction to require consultation, and we have no jurisdiction in terms of what happens in the water either, at this point,
At this point,
right? Yeah.
it is correct.
Yeah, so-
I should say, Mr. Mayor, if I could, that the province is interested in what council's opinion is of these. That's why they do ask. So while we
Okay.
don't have official authority, they certainly take into consideration what council's thoughts are.
So we can put in a concern about it if we so wish?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Councillor Holmes?
So that's kind of follows in what I was going to ask, can we support it with conditions, or is it just you support it or you don't support it?
You absolutely can support it in conditions, because not all referrals come to council. So sometimes if it's an issue that that is handled through if we had zoning on here, it could be that it doesn't even come to council, some referrals, and then you can tell a story. So sometimes you need to state more than just yes or no. You explain what your concern is, or what a condition might be, and you can provide whatever information you want to council, to the province.
Well, let's do
Okay,
that.
so we could have sort of an amendment to this particular motion. The words there followed by request for that the province do consultation or something like that?
Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that suggesting how they might run their process probably is less valuable to them as to whether, it's impossible for this property to have a dock that meets the regulations because it's so
Yeah.
narrow. So I suspect the province is suggesting, do you have a problem with this dock being here, or is it okay? And of course, if it's too long, you might say we'd be okay if it was a bit shorter, or we'd be okay if it was a bit narrower, or we'd be okay if it didn't have a boat lift, or whatever thoughts you might have. But I think the province is looking for what your recommendation is, or your thoughts on putting a dock in that location.
But no comment about consulting with a neighbor or anything like that?
And we could certainly, if that's council's wish, we could pass that along for sure.
'Cause that's the only thing that's being raised here, that's all I
We'd be
know.
okay if
It
somebody's okay.
it certainly is certainly legitimate to add that in as a comment, and again, whether or not, if that's the conversation that council's having,
Mhm.
then it is certainly all right to add it into the comment, whether or not whether or not they choose to
Yeah.
heed it or not.
The only reason I raise it is we have had no comment from council on the width, the length, or anything along those lines.
Other than Aaron Train.
So did Aaron?
Well, the safety issue of.
Well, the safety issue, yes.
We can throw that in there too.
Yeah, Councillor Pete?
I'd like to say two things. I support the discussion that Councillor Traynor brought forward, because the length of the dock may create some access difficulties with the extension on the neighbor dock. So maybe we could make a comment regarding the neighbor being able to access his dock properly with a dock at the length that this one appears to be. The other thing I wanted to say is that there is a house on this property already out by the water. The redesign is, I mean, they're gonna have a new house.
Councillor Trainer and Councillor Barkle, then we better bring it to a finish.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them building a dock. I just think if we can just double check on the safety of it in terms of getting the neighbor's boat in and the length, that would be my only comments.
Councillor Barkle.
I think that the province is probably much more better versed to be concerned about the safety aspects of it. I think that their request for a comment from us is not about so much a concern for safety, but a concern on the neighborhood. I think that if either one of those neighbors shows up at their summer cottage and sees a new dock there 2.3 meters from the property line, and it's a total surprise to them, they might not be happy. And we could hear howls of protest that they weren't, consulted. Just because there's no statutory requirement to consult doesn't mean that we shouldn't and can't consult.
Well, we can ask the province to do that as a comment, yeah. So, Councillor Peak, you made the motion.
So I'll accept a friendly amendment.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
Yep.
To what extent, for a comment on?
Let's include the comment for circulation to the neighbors,
Yep.
adjacent neighbors, and that the safety aspect of the other dock owner be taken into consideration in navigation for his vessel, or some such thing.
Okay. Can we come up some sort of rendering of that?
Yep.
Okay.
And we have a seconder.
Yeah, second is
I'm
Councillor
good with
Holmes.
that.
Okay, you wanna try and read that back, or?
Very much as it was, simply that the proposed dock at 19231 Lakeshore Drive, as shown on Schedule B, be supported on the condition that the adjacent neighbors be consulted and that the safety of using the neighbor's existing dock to the west be considered, and that staff be directed to respond to the province,
Okay.
or to the provincial referral accordingly.
Very good. Thank
May
you
I
very
make
much.
a small change?
Yeah.
Rather than consulted, if they're circulated, there is a difference in the way that people respond.
For the neighbors.
Circulated as opposed to consulted.
Yeah, okay. It's fine. Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, none opposed. Thank you very much. Okay, other reports, 12.1, CAO.
So this, we've included this report on the rural dividend fund just because we had the special meeting on May 26, where we did pass a resolution to submit that grant application, but we didn't have a follow-up meeting to talk about the grant application that it was submitted. So this report just gives you the information that it was submitted. The total submission was for $147,075. It's for economic development initiatives project with 4 components. So I'm not sure what the timeline. There is a smaller component to the rural dividend fund, which they've suggested, the program managers have suggested that it will be, those will be decided before the end of summer. But these bigger projects, they did not put timelines on, and they're going to start working through. So after about a month, I'll be following up to find out if they know anything more about timelines. It's a federal funding. Oh no, this one's not federal, this is provincial funding, but it's through a different ministry than we normally deal with. So we will wait and see. So if you had
So-
any questions on,
So
I did.
this is strictly for information at this point.
Yeah, just, and I did submit the background that we attached to the grant application for information.
Okay. I think you could have a motion to receive the CAO's. Thank you. Councillor
The
Peak.
information report submitted by the Chief Administrative Officer dated June 13th, 2016, regarding the Rural Dividend Fund be received for information.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Trainer, thank you. Any further discussion? No, all in favor? Thank you, motion carries, none opposed, thank you very much. 12.2,
Okay, this one is regards to the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program. So this is the 150 fund that's strictly infrastructure. This is the second intake. We've made one application originally for upgrades to the arena, which was not successful. We as staff had a number of management meetings to discuss what projects best fit the criteria as it was given to us, and I talked to the program administrators a number of times, and looking at our financial plan and our budget and our priorities, and after some discussion, informal discussion with council, we're recommending that we submit this for the skate park. I know we were planning to do community fundraising, and hopefully we can continue to do community fundraising for the portion that wouldn't be funded. If the program total that you can apply for is $500,000, but you need at least 50% funding from the municipality themselves. So it took away some of the projects that weren't already in our plans. Just to do a brand new project, we didn't have the other half planned. So if we did do this project, which we're just waiting for the final costing, I'm expecting to get back from the New Line skate park company that's doing the design. But if the project, for example, was $450,000, 225 would be from Canada 150. We've received approximately 137, or it's probably a little bit high, because what we have is 125 left from Penny Lane, because we used 10 for the initial design. So 125, and then we've had some additional fundraising. And then council would have to commit the balance, which, approximately 90,000. We could still continue with the fundraising campaign, but you would have to guarantee in the grant proposal that if you didn't get that fundraising, that you were going to cover it, that once we submit the application, that it would, if we're successful with the funding, that this project would go through. So that's their key on these grants, is that they want to see that the project is going to occur because believe it or not, there's many times with grant applications that submissions are made, and then municipalities don't ever actually collect the funds because they haven't thought it out. So, for example, the lease with the school board has to be signed, sealed, and done with a statement that it can be used for that purpose, so that that's not a hiccup, that there's no environmental assessments that's required, etc. So that is our recommendation, at least for our first priority. And it's unfortunately the deadline is the 22nd of June, and it is a very lengthy application form. So we've been compiling information in the hopes that council would support it, and working on getting some letters of support.
So the 88,000, which is the District Summerland component, that could be defrayed by some amount that the community might raise?
That's right. It would be my recommendation that we still implement the fundraising campaign, and this is even better because it's a totally attainable goal, and so the moment that it was that we had approval for the funding, or even beforehand, it makes it much. It's been a little delayed getting the fundraising campaign done, this capacity with the chair and the recreation director, so we need to get that started.
But it sounds to me like it's a lot more doable with that component being what it is.
And the exciting thing about this is that if we did get this, the designs are almost finished. That by next summer we could have the skate park ready, done well, and finished, and moving on to the next project, which is somewhat of an exciting thing.
Councillor Traynor had a question or comment? And then
Yeah, I just
Councillor
wanted to know if we commit the 88, but we can't raise that in time, would that affect it at all?
No,
Like,
because we would be committing it from our funds, from our,
Okay.
and it'll come back to council how because it would be out of next year's
So we
budget.
could raise it, there would be money available.
That's the commitment that council's
Okay.
making, is that we would take that, we would budget for that next year.
And then do they want these projects done by a certain time?
Yeah,
2017.
but
By okay, that's what I
there's,
thought, so that's not a lot
no,
of.
that's,
Oh.
the deadline is actually in 2018 for the project to be over, believe it or not.
Okay.
But they want it done in time for, and so they're giving high priority to the ones that can be done in 2017.
Okay.
So for us, because so much of the planning has been done, right now, it is a very good project. It should be highly desirable for them as a lasting legacy.
I think Councillor Peak had a question. Yeah.
Thank you. My question was how we would be funding it. So I know it's in next year's budget, but could I have just an indication of how that would come out in the budget?
Yeah, so we've talked about it, and council would have a number of, Councillor Peak, we've talked about,
You can assure me. That's what you're telling me.
I can assure you that there's many options for us to fund it, and we would choose whether or not we were taking it out of unallocated surplus or whether it would make part of the budget, and how we would do it, so.
Thank you. I do think it is the right project. I think the opportunity is great for the youth in the community, and I think it can be really celebrational for our community in 2017, 150 for Canada. I think it's a great opportunity.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I echo the sentiment. I think it's a great Canada 150 project. I think maybe it's a high visibility project, which is my guess is what they're probably looking for, something that does leave a legacy, and probably where we didn't get it right last time, as important as a dehumidifier and lighting are, that the federal government might not see them as a great Canada 150 legacy project. So I think this would be have a better chance of success. It's something that the community has been waiting for, and I think it'd be quite
I
exciting.
think it'd be great to be looking at it completed in the timeline the CAO mentioned. It's the youth are, like to think, I believe anyway, think in terms of 6 months and a year, and things get stretched out, and they start wondering, is it ever going to get done in my lifetime type of thing, so.
Horizon.
It's really great. Any other comments? Someone like to bring that motion forward then, please? Councillor Holmes,
I'll move, where are we here?
12.2.
That council pass the following resolution, that staff be directed to prepare and submit an application for the upgrade of Summerland Skate Park to the Canada 150 Community Infrastructure Program.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Peak. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion at all? Done well. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor? None opposed, motion's carried. Thank you very much. 12.3, European refugee crisis, CAO.
Our manager of legislative services who prepared this report is not here today, but this is just a follow-up from council's resolution at the March 29th meeting, and we hadn't, it's just more for information. I mean, we've asked for a resolution, but it's more to follow up, because the life jacket wasn't left here, so there was some confusion after that meeting, but we do have it now, and as long as council's content with it, we will display it. We have been looking, Tricia's been doing some work on what else other municipalities are doing, but there's, and UBCM, FCM, but so far, nothing at this point in time we've come up with, so this would be our first step.
Okay, thanks. Would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Holmes, thank you.
Move that council pass the following resolution, that the life jacket provided by Leslie Vassanen be displayed with a hashtag safe passage sign in the lobby of the Municipal Hall in an effort to raise awareness about the European refugee crisis.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Booth, thank you. I think we're good with that. All in favor? Oh,
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah, sure.
I think, it's not, it might not be a local issue, but it's a global issue that's only getting worse. The problem is only getting worse. And I think Canada has shown quite a leadership role in dealing with refugees. In Summerland, we've shown a leadership role locally as well, with Leslie going over, doing what she did, and the community accepting refugee families here. And I think, so we're well placed to help create this awareness. I think it's a good thing.
Thank you. Yep. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 12.4, grant and aid to Summerland Royalty Committee. CAO?
We'll turn that one over to CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the Summerland Royalty Committee submitted a letter of request looking for some support to send Miss Summerland and the Princesses to Toyakora on the Sister City trip that's coming up in September of this year. They're estimating that their travel costs will be in the neighborhood of just over $10,000 and are looking for some support from council for their trip. At this point in time, council has remaining in the 2016 budget for this category of grants and aid, just a little under $4,000. So there are some funds available should council decide that they wanted to provide some assistance to this group for their trip.
Thank you. Councillor Barkle?
Has the council ever supported sending the royalty to Japan in previous exchanges?
Certainly not the one previous to this, and I don't know the history earlier than that. Ian, do you know of if they? I could research that, but I don't have it for tonight.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. I just wondered if there was sort of a precedent set or anything, but not recently, anyway.
Not the last, like 3 years ago, not that trip for sure.
One observation was that council reduced the number of people that we were sending from 3 to 2. So actually, don't we have a little bit of extra money in our Japan exchange budget that could, maybe these would be appropriate people to support? I see that the council, or the royalty, attend a heck of a lot of events and are real ambassadors for Summerland. It's not just the title they wear, they really work for the community. So I don't know the amount, but I'd like to see some support.
So we did have an additional $7,000 added to the budget to cover travel costs for the 2 representatives from council. But I believe that the costs of the trip are going to take that full amount. We didn't add 3.
My understanding was that we put $3,000 a year in the budget each year, and then the program was every 3 years, and then would take the there would be like a $6,000 surplus from the previous 2 years that was used in the year of the trip. Is that correct?
That money goes to the sister city folks. The District of Summerland every year paid them the $3,000.
Okay. Then that's not for the expenses of the people, of the councillors and whoever's.
No. No, that money goes to the sister city committee.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was used for the
I thought it was
travel.
We added $7,000
Oh, okay.
for the travel.
I see.
So
Yes.
if I read this correctly, we're essentially looking at some portion of the 4,000.
That's available in the grant and aid budget, yes.
So I guess that comes down to what our council's wish is in terms of what portion of that 4,000, if, and it may depend on, are we looking at any potential for further requests that we may have to meet?
There will be further requests for sure. I think the bigger conversation perhaps that council should have is you have a policy on travel assistance and you get lots of requests for travel assistance. If you do decide that this one's different, you need to be very clear on why it's different, because that's when it becomes, as long as you have a policy on something like travel and you stick with it, it's fair and it's consistent, because they're all for the most part, they're all really good causes. And so that's all I would caution with council is to, when it comes to travel, we are sending representatives by sending 2 councillors.
So essentially the policy states $500 per organization.
That's right.
And,
So,
and this type of event does not
And
qualify
doesn't
under,
Pardon me?
this type of travel does not qualify under the policy?
Oh, okay. So essentially then, in terms of actual travel assistance, we can't do it under existing policy?
Not under the existing policy. Of course, council could choose to provide some support.
So
As the
it could be
CAO
up-
just mentioned, making clear how this is different than other requests we may
Councillor
receive.
Barkman.
That's why I thought one rationalization would be that instead of sending 3, we're now sending 2 this year and some support for these 4.
But just, I think the 3, I mean, certainly, you absolutely can do that, but the 3 wasn't a recommended number by any means. It was just what was originally thought might happen.
That's what we've always done in the
Right.
past, was 3. We went to 2 for this particular year. And so, I mean, recognizing that it doesn't fit the policy at all, so we have to have some sort of justification.
Councillor Trainer.
Well, if we're sending 2 counselors and they are looking for support for 4 representatives, if we did decide to sponsor them, perhaps we could just sponsor 2. Just an idea.
I think it goes in a pool for
Coun-
Oh, well,
Just a minute, Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak, Councillor Booth.
I think the 500 per organization might not be strictly to the letter of the policy, but in a case like this, would be in the spirit of the policy. And I think $500 would be acceptable.
Okay, Councillor Peak.
I agree with that, and I agree in the spirit of the fact that we really did diminish the amount of funds we're putting out. We made a reconsideration for how we would support a sister city organization and doing it, and I think that that leaves us a little leeway, even though it isn't money in that particular pot in any way, shape, or form. But I think it sports the spirit of a sister city delegation, and I think that these young women are extremely representative of the kind of youth we have in the community, and I think it would be a shame not to support it. So I would support $500 towards these travel expenses.
Councillor Booth.
I just have a question about the letter that came from the society, or from the,
Sisters.
Blossom.
The royalty.
The royalty, thank you. Blossom pageant. The royalty, thank you. It says in there, we have also been asked by the Summerland Sister City Society to participate in the Japan trip to Toyokoro in September 2016. Councillor Peak, you're on that society, right? You're in that group. When that invitation was made, do you know if there was any discussion beyond how much it will approximately cost as far as funding that?
No, this particular item did not come up at the committee in any way, shape, or form, and so that I wasn't aware of this letter coming forward in this format.
Okay, so what's council's wish? Are we looking at kind of, as Councillor Peak and Holmes have suggested, keeping with the spirit of support, but we're not actually adjusting our policy? Does that sound rational, reasonable? Someone like to make that motion with the dollar amount, please? Councillor Holmes?
Move that a $500 grant in aid be awarded to the Summerland Royalty Committee from the 2016 grant and aid budget, and that the purpose of this grant is to subsidize travel costs for the Sister City trip to Toyokoro, Japan in September 2016.
Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. The motion carries. Is any opposed? One opposed. Thank you. Moving on to 12.5.
Mr. Mayor, could I just?
Yes.
I'm wondering if there's an opportunity here that if there's a fundraising event that council could get involved in, that we would be willing or open to an invitation to help with a fundraising event? And that's only a suggestion, not a commitment.
Well, I think, yeah, for sure, if they want to have a fundraising event, I think any one of us would be pleased to participate if it boosts the opportunity for raising funds.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, 12.5, Development Cost Charge Reserve Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report before council tonight is part of our year-end requirements that council considered an annual report on the collection of development cost charges and the expenditure of any of those funds. So in the 2015 year, funds were collected. There were no projects paid for with these monies, and interest is earned by the funds and allocated to the development cost charge funds each year. And if there's any questions about any of the items or information in that chart that's attached, to be happy to answer them.
Questions of the CFO? Okay, would someone like to bring the motion forward, please? Councillor Peak, thank you.
The council received the District of Summerland 2015 Development Cost Charge Reserve Fund Report.
Seconder? Councillor Trainer, thank you very much. No further discussion?
I just have one
Yeah,
question,
go ahead.
Mr. Mayor. These development cost charge, the Development Cost Charge Reserve Fund, it says that nothing was drawn from that fund over 2015. What is that? What happens to that? Does it get put into the general fund, or is it?
This is
what happens with it?
Is a reserve fund that's created by bylaw, and only projects that are included in the development cost charge bylaw can have these funds spent on them. So the district didn't undertake any of those capital works in 2015. That's why no funds were spent. So no, it doesn't just go into general. It's set aside, it's kept track of, and when one of those growth-related projects needs to be undertaken, the monies are available to probably partially fund the work that's required.
So
It's
that
our-
would be, oh, I'm sorry.
It's our intent this year to look at what is stated in the development cost charge bylaw to make sure that that it doesn't need to be expanded and broadened on what the projects could be. There's some different opinions in our discussions on what possibly should be in there, so that's on the list to discuss this year.
So this would be municipal capital projects?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So in some budget discussions along the way, when we're looking, when you're given the different funding sources, there will be a project at times where it'll be identified, this is a project that we could use DCC funding for.
Good, thank you.
Okay, someone like to bring the resolution forward, please?
I did that, it was
Did you? Okay,
seconded, so we're
seconded.
voting now.
Did we second it?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you, carries, thank you very much. 12.6, Annual Parking Reserve Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, an annual requirement that council consider the summary report on the funds held for off-street parking. So in 2015, again, no funds were spent. We also had no funds collected. There is interest earned on the funds held on hand. And in our 5-year capital or financial plan, we do have a project to be funded from these monies, improvement of the parking lot at Rosedale and Wharton.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Councillor Peak?
Just a question, and I had meant to ask this before the meeting, but where is that exactly? Because I know there's a parking lot near the medical center across from the car wash, but I wasn't quite sure whether that's the parking area.
Yes, I believe it is that gravel parking lot across from the dentist.
Okay. If I may, during the business walks, there was an indication from some of the partners in that building that they're interested in putting some funds toward that. So that's a great project to have money available for, was my only comment.
Okay, thank you. Would someone like to bring that forward? Councillor Barkman?
Yeah, I was just
Oh, okay, question?
going to make the same comment. I understood that they're willing to pay. Let's make sure we don't miss out on that opportunity. I'll put the resolution forward that
thank you.
council received the District of Summerland's 2015 Annual Parking Reserve Fund Report.
Thank you. Seconder? Counselor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries, none opposed. Okay. 12.7.
So before we get to 12.7, just a note that your schedule of remuneration and expenses has been updated on this report. There was just an adjustment needed for the mayor and councillor's remuneration. The amount that was included in the initial agenda that went out was only the 2/3 that was taxable income, and it did not include the 1/3 that was not taxable. Unfortunately, if you looked at last year's and the year before's statements, it was also done that way. So these are the correct amounts that are been updated in your package now.
Thank you.
Thank you very
So the
much.
report's self-explanatory other than that, unless there's any questions.
Okay, someone like to bring that forward, please? Counselor Peak?
The council approved the District of Summerland 2015 Statement of Financial Information for filing with the Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development, and that the mayor and the Director of Finance be authorized to execute all documents related to this matter.
Thank you. Seconder? Counselor Barkle, thank you very much. All in favor? Okay, motion carries, none opposed. 12.8. Mr. Johnson?
Good evening, Council. This report is a follow-up report from last meeting looking at Garnet Valley road cross sections as part of the Garnet Valley Water Separation Project. Council approved a 9-meter cross section for the Jones Flat to Wild Horse section last meeting, with the exception of a section near Eneas Creek where the creek is lined on the west side. So the request from Council was to bring back options for that section as well as north of Wild Horse for the remainder of Garnet Valley Road. So the first section, with regards to the section near the creek, 2 options are outlined in this report. One, to look at maintaining that 9-meter section that was approved last meeting through that section, or look at a reduced cross section to avoid any rock removal on the west side of the road. Some items to note are the length of the rock slope that would be impacted by widening this section is about 220 meters. That was an increase from the last report. Last report looked at widening to the west side of the road. This looks at widening, looks at not widening to the west side of the road with the creek being so near. Some additional survey was done, and the recommendation is to, if you're going to widen on the east side, which then impacts the slope. So the area that's going to be impacted increased from 50 meters in length to about 220. The risks that are associated with impacting that rock slope are of a concern. There's a gas line that's near that slope, so any blasting that would typically be used to remove the rock is not permitted with Fortis BC's recommendation. There are other means to do that removal, but blasting would not be one of them. And the stability of the rock slope, once we do remove some of it, is of a concern. Not sure how deep that rock goes into the bank, what would be left there following the removal of what we need. Any impacts to the neighboring driveways and properties could be of a concern if there is slope stability issues. And then possibly the requirement to acquire more land if that slopes required us to go further into property than anticipated. So based on that, the recommendation is to look at a shared roadway, so a reduced section, narrowing that road down to about 8 meters paved, so 2 4-meter shared lanes, with proper signage to accommodate that and to warn cyclists and motorists of that. On the next page, it looks at the cost difference between the 2 options. It's about $195,000 estimated right now to look at the removal of that slope, the portions that would be required to get the wider right-of-way through there. But again, there are some unknown risks that may not be quantified 100% right now. So the next section that we're looking at is then north of Wild Horse. In the original design, there was no additional or no design. There was no looking at widening any of that roadway. It was just designed to replace any asphalt that was disturbed. So looking at incorporating some level of a consistent wider right-of-way through there is going to be additional to the budget. So listed there are 5 options. Option 1 being as per the design, which is just replacing any asphalt disturbed. Two looks at repaving the existing asphalt that's out there to have a new asphalt on everything that's there. Then there are three widened options at 6.4, 7 meters, and 8 meters, and the associated costs with that. So the recommendation here is to, again, with it not being in the budget, is to not add to the project budget at this time, but in the design we can look at including provisional items for widening that road. So we base the design and the contract base amounts on just repaving what was disturbed, but we can have provisional items in there that will be priced by the contractor and that could be noted on the design as provisional to widen to a standard right-of-way if the funds are available. So the funds may be available when it's tendered if the tendered prices come in lower than estimated, or as we go through the project, we'll be monitoring the budget closely and could determine at a point if there's sufficient surplus within the budget to look at options for north of Wild Horse. So that being said, the provisional items that are recommended to be included in the contract are based on a minimal standard for that section north of Wild Horse, which would be 6.4 meters, which would be 6 meters paved with 0.2 gravel shoulders, which would allow 2 3-meter shared lanes for that section.
Just to emphasize, when we were preparing for this report and discussing amongst staff on what the recommendation coming forward to council should be, what it really came down to was recognizing that this is a very large, complex project with many unknowns. And we realized that to be suggesting or recommending to council that we look at the options of spending more money right up front at the first time that we were looking at options was, in our opinion, not a very prudent course of action, because we don't know and we do not have a large contingency on what unexpected obstacles may come down the road. So when we looked at it to recognize that, that's when we thought that was the recommendation that staff needed to bring forward. But as Mr. Johnson said, keep working it into the engineering so that should the project go along as hoped and in the best manner possible, that we may have funds that we can look at that as we move farther down, not at the very beginning of the project.
Councillor Park.
Was the potential for widening the road at where it's very close to the creek there further down, was that going to be one of the provisional items in the quotes?
It wasn't in the recommendations to do that. I guess if we're going to go down that path to widen through that section, there may be some additional work as far as that we may look at some additional geotechnical work that would be required earlier, just to include those to try to quantify some of those details further. So right now there wasn't, but
yeah, there's some additional work so that they have the information needed to make a proper quote to us. I guess the better the information, the tighter the quote, and the better the price probably. I'd like to see that be an option. If there's surplus funds, which I understand is kind of what you would do with your provisional items, then I lean towards making that a priority over making that stretch wider north of Wild Horse. That's a pretty good road now for the amount of traffic. I don't know, of course, it's a council decision, but I'd like to put that one out there for us to be able to consider giving the option. And the second question is, I'm continually told by people in the industry, and I don't know if this is true or not, I want your opinion, that timing for these contracts can mean a big difference in the price, like up to 10%, which in this case would be about $600,000. Is that your experience?
that timing does play a key role in pricing. That being said, we've had some initial conversations with some of the contractors. Being that we're looking to roll out the tender in kind of late summer and start construction in the fall, that works very well for a number of the key contractors that we've talked to. Being that they've got some work underway this year that will be wrapping up come into the fall, so they'll be free to do some work during that time.
Makes you feel optimistic on pricing?
Yes.
I need a little clarification. In the first part of the recommendation, you talk about reducing the 9 meters to 8.4, and that's the full length from Garnet Valley Road or, yeah, full length of the road from Jones Flat to Wild Horse.
That's only through the section where Eneas Creek is restricts that area. So it's only for 220 meters of that roadway.
Okay, gotcha, okay. That's good, thanks. Councillor Peak?
Yeah, I'd like to counter Councillor Barkwell's statement in terms of the fact that I see the understanding from what's presented in the report that the potential disturbance around Anais Creek with slope stability and the properties, neighboring properties and driveways and the gas line as being overriding, and that we should probably leave it at the if I got the number right, 8.4 meter roadway width. I think that that's a better option in terms of the things that you can get into once you create slope instability. And these have been established banks for a long, long time. I think there is an advantage for that short distance at that staying the way it is, which is a recommendation as well.
Any other comments? Any questions of Mr. Johnson? Thank you very much, Chris. Okay, okay, we need to, any further discussion amongst ourselves? Councillor Barkwell.
Well, despite of the comments from Councillor Peak, I would like to see that a slightly wider road in that narrow section be an option, that if there's, good pricing, that we could do. It's just a question of dollars and deciding what our priorities are, whether we would rather see it a little wider there in that section or wider north of Wild Horse Road. And at least
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
So if we get the information, we can at least make that call when if the opportunity does arise. No guarantee that it will.
I personally thought that when we discussed this earlier, not tonight, but previously, that we sort of put that forward, that exactly what you're saying, that, the Wild Horse section would, gets limited traffic, and that any funds that might be available could be applied to trying to enhance that pinch point where the creek is. But, but it looks to me like maybe there still wouldn't be nearly enough funds to try and do that. Is that correct? Speaking to Director of Public Works? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the additional funds for the narrowed section right now are pegged at around $200,000. I think 195 is quoted in the report.
Okay.
Just as noted, that there are a number of additional risks that we would have difficulty trying to quantify now, and that may be encountered during the removal of some of that rock.
So would there be an option to, if things work out and there's additional funds remaining, that we could do something? Or are we going to be fully directed by this, that we're looking at just looking at the Wild Horse section? Yeah, we're basically repaving the Wild Horse section where the pipe is, right?
Correct. As per the original design, it would just be trench patching wherever the north of Wild Horse was disturbed. Yeah.
Councillor Carlson, Councillor Peak. Sorry, the CAO, did you have a?
No, again, just as, with all of the emphasis on capital projects with the Auditor General of Local Governments over the last while, we're trying really hard to move forward in a really prudent manner and saying that to do with budgeting and being cost, and it's shown in almost every municipal project anywhere for some reason that very rarely do you not encounter problems that are unexpected. And so council certainly can decide to divert more funds to this, but the recognition needs to be very loud and clear that it's a conscious decision that we will likely be going into our surpluses or other funds at some point if we do that, because there will be other costs. It's just we don't know where yet.
So if we went with this resolution as it is, does it prevent us to make some adjustments later if we find that we don't run into the kind of problems that we're thinking might happen? Could we use those funds,
I guess that there still isn't, we could include provisional items for retaining wall and for rock removal and quantify as best we can for this section and see where those unit rates come in. Like, there's no harm in doing that, having them provisional and not included in the final tender price. I guess just right now, the concern, like our concerns with the risk with that slope and with the gas line, that I don't know if that would be our best course of action, even if those prices did come in.
so the impression I'm getting is that the resolution we have, or recommendation we have, is probably the most prudent thing to move forward with. Councillor Carlson?
Just want to suggest Schedule A, when you look at the images, I know that stretch quite well, the school bus. When I was growing up, it used to stop right at the very beginning of that red line because it was a very safe place to stop. And so I think that having a narrow section there should not be a problem. People generally, when they're coming from out in the valley and coming through, they are slowed down because there's some tight corners right before that. So I don't see a need to push it too much further.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, I just think, I agree. I just think, we are limited by our geography here. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to work around it. And if it means a little bit of inconvenience, well, that's, we deal with that every time we drive to Oliver and trying to negotiate around Vasseau Lake, right? So it's, that's the price you have to pay for living in paradise.
Councillor Peak, then Councillor Barwell.
Yeah, I think taking the staff recommendation is a good thing to do. They are trained to look at this carefully. We have engineers on staff. And the fact is that a narrowing sometimes slows people down, and that's not a bad thing en route when you're traveling either.
Yeah, I think that sort of justification is difficult because we were looking at trying to make sure we had the cycling, et cetera, because we would do that, no question, if we weren't limited by the potential difficulties of the creek and slope instabilities, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, it's true, but at the same time, it's not something we would look forward to.
That's a sidebar. I didn't mean that as main comment.
Okay, Councillor Barkle.
All we're really looking at here right now is if by chance there's extra monies left over, how do we best spend them? And was it best spent on widening that section of road? It sounds like staff isn't very keen about that, regardless of how much money is available. Or widening the section north of Wild Horse, and what our priority is, given that, we're fortunate enough at the end of the project to have some funds left over. Perhaps there won't be, perhaps there'll be contingencies that we're planned for and they're all eaten up somewhere, but, I'd like to have that option, that's all. And then we could vote on what was our priority. It might be that the narrowing section is gonna cost $300,000 and widening north of Wild Horse is $200,000 and we only have $210,000. It might be something like that, but if we have $400,000 left over, what are we going to do?
Okay, I think we've had lots of discussion. Someone like to present the motion, please, or a motion? Councillor Carlson.
I will move the motion as presented in the agenda.
Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Thank you very much. One opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, 12, thank you, Mr. Johnson. 12.9. Summerland Community Arts Council rep.
This one's straightforward. We've been asked by the Summerland Community Arts Council to have an actual council represented on the board. If council is interested in that, then we would just name who that person would be and we would appoint them. Jeremy, did you have any other discussion? Trish is away tonight, but no, he does. Yeah, we're good to open it up.
Okay. Councillor Holmes.
I think it's a good idea. I know in times past, there was a council liaison on the Arts Council board. And I think they're going through a transition period right now where a council liaison might be helpful with them.
Remember the last part of that recommendation or the background discussion talks about whether that person would be a voting member, and most of our, I think by and large, our committees have a liaison and they are not a voting member. So
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, it would not be a voting member, is that the way we feel?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, who's gonna jump at that opportunity?
What are their meetings? Does anyone know?
It says on the thing, is it every
Tuesday,
second
second?
Tuesday? On the second Tuesday of every month.
Okay. Since you're all, would everybody like to step back one pace, please? See who
Tuesdays are
doesn't respond.
popular night.
I'd be happy to volunteer. My only
Caveat.
issue is that the refugee committee meets the same day, but I think I can convince them to change that. Not the Arts Council, but the refugee committee.
Okay.
I would go in as an alternate if Doug isn't available, if we're doing an alternate.
Okay, I think that's probably all right as well. Okay, Council would, well, the motion actually calls for Councillor be appointed, but should we be asking for an alternate? I guess we should if we can't get somebody all the time. Okay, Councillor Carlson.
I will move that Councillor Holmes be appointed and Councillor Peak be the alternate as council liaison to the Summerland Community Arts Council for 2016, 17, 18.
Now.
Nice try. Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much. 12.1, Ag Advisory Committee vacancy.
So, this particular one, is, I'm going to bring out a resolution that we passed in camera. This just reminded us as we, came to these committee, reports that we didn't, bring out a resolution regarding an appointment that was made, in camera. So the in-camera motion, that council appoint Barbara Dunnant-Sage to the Advisory Planning Commission with a term to expire June 8, 2018, was passed in camera. Now we'll move to the Agriculture Advisory Committee, and this is just asking council to have staff advertise the vacancy for this particular committee.
Okay, so we've brought forward the...
That's just information.
Okay, just information, okay. Okay, so this is to advertise, right?
Yeah, this is just, we have a vacancy now.
Okay,
and-
very good. Someone like to bring that forward?
Well, I can. I was going to say
So I think you could say something after that.
I move that council pass the following recommendation, that staff be directed to advertise to fill the vacancy on the Agricultural Advisory Committee.
Seconder? Councillor Carlson, thank you. Okay, what were we gonna say?
I'm just wondering, as these vacancies come up from time to time, and we're always putting out ads for them, maybe we could just set something where every 6 months or whatever, where we need, we can just advertise all the vacancies in one go, and we might get better response that way for all positions.
I agree with you. I think that's why they've been bringing it forward like this, to eventually have to have exactly that discussion on how you want, because we don't have a practice, so we don't need to fit, when it's only one or two members, it doesn't necessarily need to be filled immediately. So if we start to bring them maybe quarterly or something, if there's a couple, and we start to, so we can start doing that if council's okay with that. We don't necessarily right away bring it. We'll start to go into a pattern of however.
That's sensible.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we can move ahead. All in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Motion passed. Was that opposed, or were you just late?
I was slow.
Okay, thanks.
Since he moved it.
I know, I just expected him to be in favor. 14.1, OCP and zoning amendment for parks in Lower Town. I assume that's Mr. Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first in a few applications that will be coming forward to council over time as they are discovered. And in this particular case, this is part of municipal property that was where the actual titled lots were zoned park a few years ago. The OCP was never amended to correct the designation to get it to be park, and it includes a lot of land that is out there and developed as park but is not titled property. So if we move in a little closer, this is the area that we're talking about down in Lower Town that is municipal park. There are a number of legal titled lots, which you can see on the next slide. So the titled lots are designated as low-density residential on the official community plan, which is what they were when the houses were on them and the district purchased them. That designation has never been changed. So what we're suggesting is that the entire area inside the red boundary be designated as park. And then the associated bylaw, you can see the titled lots there are actually zoned park, but the remainder of the area has no zoning on it. So we're recommending as well that the entire area inside that red boundary be zoned as PR1.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the planner? Councilor Trainer.
So do those landowners, or sorry, the homeowners on the other side of the street, do they technically own that property then on the other side?
No,
They
no,
don't?
Mr. Mayor, that is probably accreted land over time that is essentially crown land, and it was probably part of the lake bed many, many years ago, and as the creek exits there, it just deposited land, and over time it has become what's called accreted land. And if there was a landowner between the land and the road, they could apply for that property, but there is no landowner.
So sorry, who owns the green then?
The green is owned by us.
Oh, it
That's
is,
district
okay.
land that is developed as park, and those lots were purchased by the district and zoned as park, but the remainder of the area between the green and the water is property that is acting as park, but it has no zoning on it.
So this would make it all
Would make it all
consistent?
green,
Okay.
all consistent, yes.
Yeah, the municipalities had a policy for parks in especially lakeshore areas to try and acquire
Mhm.
houses. They've done that, or we've done that, and those lot lines are, represent where, I guess, houses were at one point.
Okay.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thanks,
And there's no, they aren't extensions of the property lines across the road or anything like that.
got it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would somebody like to bring the recommendation forward as presented, please? Councilor Peak.
I won't worry about reading this whole one. It's Parks in Lower Town. I'm presenting the resolution as printed.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councilor Trainer, thank you very much. All in favor? Motion's carried, none opposed, thank you very much. Okay, 14.2, OCP and zoning amendment for Thornbury Street. Mr. Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the application that council discussed at the last meeting and directed staff to prepare the appropriate zoning and OCP amending bylaws. So those have been prepared for council's consideration. The subject property is 2311 Thornbury, which is shown on the map there. There are two properties immediately to the west of it that are also designated as rural residential, also in the ALR, but the regulations of the Land Commission do not apply to them because they have this 2-acre exemption. So what staff are recommending is that all 3 lots be changed on the OCP from rural residential to low-density residential, and that all 3 lots be added to the urban growth boundary, but that only the subject property be rezoned from CR1 to RSD3. And the reason for that is that staff understand or are recommending that it wouldn't be reasonable to orphan those 2 lots to the left with an OCP designation and with the urban growth boundary, but generally staff don't recommend changing the zoning of private properties without the property owner's request. So in this case, the amending bylaws would zone the single property shown there to RSD3 and change the OCP designation of all 3.
Okay, and this motion is just to bring it to a public hearing?
That is correct.
Thank you. Okay, any questions of the planner? Since we dealt with this in great detail earlier. previous meeting, so would someone like to bring the motion forward as presented, please? Councillor Turner? Seconder, please. Councillor Booth, thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries.
Opposed?
None opposed?
I'm
Was it
opposed.
you were opposed? I'm sorry. I thought you were, had your hand up.
Just low.
Okay.
Great.
14.3, Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Coordinator, CAO.
Sorry. Oh, this is a bit of a housekeeping item as well as Tricia's report tells you. It's in our bylaw, in our FIPUB bylaw, it actually mentions the delegation to the right now corporate officer for the coordinator. The CAO is the head of for Freedom of Information, but the coordinator is named as a corporate officer. It's not a requirement in the bylaw to name it. The head can name the delegate, but because it's there, it should be right. And it's ever since we've had a deputy corporate officer structure, it's been the deputy corporate officer who does the Freedom of Information request, not the director. So this just does an amendment to the bylaw, changing it to the manager of legislative services, and at some point we'll update that bylaw to make it modern, completely modernized, so it states what it needs to say. But this just corrects it at this time.
Okay, thank you. Someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Peak?
That a bylaw 2016-023 Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act Amendment Bylaw Number 2000-441 be introduced and read for first, second, and third time by title only.
Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. Any further discussion? It's pretty much housekeeping. All in favor?
Makes sense.
Thank you. Motion carries. None opposed. Thank you very much. 14.4, loan authorization bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is in regards to the local service area for sewer servicing behind the Summerland Motel, the Juniper, Miltmore, Willow, Tate local area. Council's aware that the construction of that, the works for that project finished in the fall. The property owners had until April 30th to let the district know if they were going to make a one-time payment for their share of those works, or whether they would be included in the borrowing. We recently had a parcel tax bylaw adopted that allowed us to proceed with the taxing to recover the costs for the borrowing. And before you tonight, you have the loan authorization bylaw and a security issuing resolution for the regional district. So this is just a borrowing process that local governments follow when we go through this type of petition, and the option for residents in the local area to have the works financed over a term. In this case, it's 20 years. We'll be proceeding to the Municipal Finance Authority after council approves these the bylaw and gives us the resolution tonight to be in their fall issue, which will happen in October or November. Once the fall issue is completed, the district will know then for sure what the borrowing rate will be on this debt, and should any revisions be needed to charge the homeowners correctly, we'll see a revision to our parcel tax bylaw come forward. So if there are any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them, but it really is just the wrapping up of that process for that local service area.
Councillor Peak?
I asked this question, but I'm going to ask it in open council. There were 4 properties that commuted the cost of $15,000. Is there an opportunity after the borrowing is set in place for other properties to pay out the amount that's outstanding on the debt?
So the only, Mr. Mayor, the only opportunity the district has to make a lump sum repayment on the borrowing from the Municipal Finance Authority is at the interest reset date. So at 10 years, there is an opportunity to take a look at whether anyone would like to retire their debt. Administratively, that isn't normal practice. Usually, once people make that decision to finance, they will retain that debt for the full term.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anything else? Any further comments, questions? Someone like to bring that resolution forward as written?
Do you want me to do it again?
Well, it's a long one, if you want to
Let
read it,
Aaron.
that's fine.
I
Councillor
will move
Carlson.
the recommendation 14.4 as presented.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, we're into councillor reports, starting with Councillor Peak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended, as did Councillor Barkwell, as the acting mayor, the 25th anniversary of the Friends of the Ornamental Gardens, and it was a wonderful event. The rain came down. They had set up 100 chairs, so we convened in the home, which meant a very cozy setting, but it was a really nice event. The Summerland singers and players dressed in period pieces and acted the parts. We had music and as a choir, and Linnea Good, the children choir, and the royalty came and served. And Councillor Barkler did a very good job of representing our community. I also have attended cultural task force meetings and the public open house on June 6th, which was extremely well done. The committee did a great job of putting out the presentation of the draft report, and we received lots of good comments to incorporate and to read through and evaluate. June 8th, I came to the council steps, and there was an opportunity to support the Fibromyalgia Foundation, and I also attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting. I brought a welcome from the municipality for the Bluegrass Festival in absence of the acting mayor, and I also attended the farmers market on the opening on Sunday, which was a great time. I like the presentation of it coming down the center of the street. I think that it allows for a great deal more activity and for people to see our stores and get into them more easily as well.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. So also at the farmer's market with everybody else, I think. I was waiting for the mayor to jump into that dance routine, but...
Pardon me?
He didn't jump in?
No.
Next year,
I
bit of
missed
practice.
that.
Not the proper training.
So I've also been quite heavily involved with the cultural plan. We're really coming down to the nitty-gritty right now. In the open house, I believe we've had about 50 people came out to the open house to review the draft plan. And really the purpose of the draft plan was of the open house was to make sure that we heard the community, that all the public input that we collected. I think we got over 2,300 individual public inputs. So we had a lot of data to go through, and we wanted to make sure that what we analyzed and heard and was in the plan was representative of what the community was telling us. And I think by and large, I think we got that confirmation, so that was nice to see. If anybody still wants to see the presentation boards of the open house, they're up in display at the Arts Center, so they can go there. So we're now in the final stages of preparing the plan. I'd like to give an update on the Summerland Refugee Sponsorship Group. It's been incorporated as a nonprofit society, and the goal is to bring in one refugee family per year into Summerland. The organization has more than 100 community volunteers, and to date they've raised more than $50,000. So, and I'd like to give specific thanks to the Summerland Secondary School Civics 11 class for raising over $2,300 for the cause for refugees. This was from sponsorship through a Get Active event that they held, as well as donations at the door for the grade 12 drama classes year-end performance. And I'd also like to give this kind of on a personal note, give congratulations to my tennis team, the Summerland Secondary School tennis team that I coach, for making it to the provincials. They went to the provincials and they represented the community very well. They came second in the Valleys. That's how they got booked their ticket there. And probably the highlight of the year was beating Maggie twice. Once during the regular season, once at the Valleys.
Seem to be enjoying that too much, Councillor.
Action Fest, I spent much involved in Action Fest. Many of my family members were involved in various slopage tournaments, the parade and whatnot. And we all, as our family always does, go on the Giant's Head Run. And I think we might have to consider a bylaw forbidding the youth in this community of passing their parents and getting a better time than their parents. I think it's about 8 years running now that has occurred, and the gap isn't getting any closer.
I have news for you, Councillor Holmes. It's not going to get any better.
No, it's not. But I'd like to thank all the staff and volunteers that make Action Fest such a great success. It's a great asset for this community. And I really, it was so hot. That run was so hot this year. Everybody's times were way down, except.
Well, it's because they made the run longer, didn't they?
Except Councillor Traynor. So everybody else was down. And so I really like to give recognition to all the residents who live along the race route and out with their hoses. And man, did that really make a difference. So I'd like to thank them. Thanks.
Councillor Carlson.
Everyone's got all this positive.
Rain in our parade, are you?
Yeah, I am. I think that, no, it might be too hard. Go ahead.
No.
She'll come back.
Oh, okay, Councillor Blue.
So a number of things that I have written here, things that I've done in the last couple of weeks, have already been spoken about, so I won't refer to that again. Last Tuesday, on behalf of our mayor, who was absent, I attended the Okanagan Basin Water Board and Water Stewardship Committee. They had their AGM, and they also had a presentation from Dr. Danesh, who is a reconciliation lawyer who lives in Victoria. And it was an amazing presentation. He spoke a lot about the history of First Nations land in BC, right up to the 2014 Chilcotin decision. It was, of course, there were a number of representatives from the Okanagan Nation Alliance there, and although it wasn't as emotional as what we've heard that the Truth and Reconciliation proceedings were, it was a very emotional, moving presentation. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for assigning me to go up there. Later that day, I attended the Okanagan Similkameen Healthy Living Coalition that Susan Brown was speaking of earlier tonight, and they are working on doing presentations at this last meeting and their next meeting on things that they have accomplished in the last couple of years. They have one more year, and then the decision is going to be made on if they're going to continue to move forward or not. They get a fair bit of funding from the RDOS. At the Chamber of Commerce board meeting on Thursday night, their executive director mentioned that they're going to have a kiosk on Main Street for 5 days of the week for the summer, which is 3 days a week more than typical. This is to have a spot where people that don't come to the visitor center can approach them, and they have more visibility. So that will be set up at the Sunday market, the Tuesday market, and then for the 3 other days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the kiosk outside of where the TELUS property is, kind of on the corner of Main Street. Yeah. What else did she say? CAO, did you get a letter in support of the housing study? That's something that we discussed at the board meeting, the chamber board meeting. The housing study that Penticton is doing.
Right.
They're going to be writing a letter recommending that we.
That's right, and that's
yes.
another one that I should have mentioned that it didn't come yet today, but we're
Okay.
working with that.
Yeah, so you can anticipate that.
Right.
I attended the open house as well of the Culture Plan Task Force, and I have to say, pretty impressive the work that group has done over the last several months. So much consultation, as we heard from Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak, so thank you for that.
Councillor Barkle.
First, I'd like to give a shout out, as they say, to Shalinder at the Petrocan Max store, who's at his own expense has put out a couple of picnic tables on the grassy area just north of the store near the highway, which people seem to be enjoying quite a bit. Taking on the responsibility of keeping them clean and everything like that. And so good to Shalinder. I attended the cultural plan open house, and I really am impressed. I think it's going to be a plan, one of those plans that it won't just sit on the shelf. There's very specific recommendations which I think council can sink their teeth into and go with. Of course, we don't know what the final form will be, but I'm very encouraged with what I saw there. I also attended the open house for the issue concerning horses in the water down at North Lakeshore Drive, and I thought that was pretty interesting because there was lots of people on both sides of the issue. There's a term I keep seeing in the media a lot these days that call basically evidence-based decisions and evidence-based plans, and so I hope that in the end we make a decision that's based on sound evidence on the issues such as is there or isn't there any harmful bacterial contamination and such in the water, not just speculation. Mr. Councillor Holmes and I attended at the Bluegrass Festival too, but we were a little bit late, but we did get to talk to some principals involved, and I guess it's been quite a success this year despite the rain, and they're enthusiastic and it'll continue on next year. And Councillor Holmes and I also went to the Agar Lake camp on their open house. And we were fortunate, we were sitting there on the dock waiting for somebody to catch a fish, and a lady came along, Beth Bonton, who's the president, and she gave us quite an extensive tour of the facilities, which we walked around for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I really am impressed with what they've been able to do up there at the Agar Lake camp. And we understand that Mr. Campia has donated the money needed to pave a lot of their trails, which will be great for wheelchair access out to the other side of the lake and such. Good fishing in that lake, and an amazing number of birds on the north side there. We also, Councillor Holmes and I, while we were out that way, went to have a look at Eisentalk Dam and saw that it's spilling still, and at least it was then on the 28th. And tried to see what was happening with any other issues up there. And attended the Action Festival and showed my support in the beer garden, and that's about it.
You sure the trips to Eisentalk wasn't just a cover for going fishing? Sound a little suspicious here. Suspicious. Okay, Councillor Trainer.
So Bike to Work Week this year was very successful. It wrapped up on June the 3rd, and we had 93 riders, which is nearly double last year. I wanted to thank the district and all of the local companies who sponsored our celebration stations and our prizes. And collectively, we burned nearly 89,000 calories. We rode nearly 3,000 kilometers and saved 641 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions. So really proud of that. I participated in the Giants Head Run as part of Action Fest, and it was very hot and sweaty. And I too appreciated the neighbors with their water hoses. I wanted to thank the organizers, the staff, and the volunteers. It's really nice when you're running along and you're trying not to die and you see people cheering you on the side of the road. So thanks to all the neighbors who also were out there cheering us on. I also wanted to give a big congratulations to my neighbor. His name is Keegan Ingram, and he's in grade 8 at Summerland Middle School, and earlier this month he won 2 provincial championships for running. Most notably, he won the 3,000 meter race, running it in 9 minutes and 51 seconds. And apparently this is the first provincial championship for Summerland Middle School. So that was really cool. I also attended some of the other events that the other counselors already mentioned. And finally, I just wanted to acknowledge what happened in Orlando this week. Communities across Canada and around the world are holding vigils and flying their pride flags at half-mast. And we, in Summerland, we show support for many different groups, and I think that the LGBTQT group is one that needs our support as well, so I'm very proud of our rainbow crosswalks. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Carlson? Yeah, I was gonna add that as well. Thank you, Councilor Trainer, because the impact of that horrific incident has resonated around the world and certainly resonated here, I believe, and we don't know the full totality of that yet, but it was utterly amazing that anybody would ever take that on or do that. It's just terrible. So are there any, I have one comment to make. Apparently the school board has essentially said no to the special advisor, according to the report, and there are some technicalities around that, and I really don't feel too free to try and explain them because they're probably more complex than what I will grasp at this point. So there may be something in the media tomorrow about how that went down at the school trustees meeting. So it looks like we're no further ahead at this point. So with that, I'll ask any questions. Any of the media have anything today? Yes,
Yes,
Council.
I have a question for
Yes.
CAO, please. You mentioned that a building inspector had been hired part-time. Is that half-time?
Yeah, yes, at this point it's half-time,
Okay.
yes.
And
17.5.
and you say at this point, is there an anticipation that it will increase?
No, but building inspection, unlike some other positions, is really driven on how much activity there are. Right now, we've been bringing a lot of relief in, so his contract is for 17.5 hours per week, but if there was more work, then he would be also doing what we would normally call in a relief for.
Okay, so what's the staff complement? I mean, Mr. Cook is the main.
No, Mr. McCook's been gone for a couple months now.
Oh, he has, okay.
So we have one full-time building inspector and a half-time building inspector.
And who is the full-time?
His name is Jerome.
Last name?
Done. Pardon me?
Yeah,
Okay,
H-U.
I'll get it from you.
Yeah.
So, all right, so there's a full-time and a part-time, approximately half-time.
That's right.
Which could be increased as needed.
Council's authorized one permanent half-time position,
Okay.
but we do call relief in if we monitor how long it's taking to process applications.
Thank you.
Any questions from the public? Hearing nothing? Okay, could I have a motion for adjournment, please? Councillor Barkwell, seconded. Councillor Booth, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.